Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Welcome to the Monsters, Madness, and Magic podcast. I'm Justin, joined by my co-host, Mitch. Say hello, Mitch.
Hello.
This afternoon, we're joined by a very special guest, former professional wrestler and actor. You may know him as Sabretooth, King Ajax, or perhaps Michael Myers himself, Mr. Tyler Main. Tyler, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure, man. So take us back in time. Let's start at the beginning. When you were a kid, what sort of movies were you into? Like, did you read comics? Did you make models?
I tell you, I was a tall, skinny kid, glasses, braces. I was slightly dyslexic, so I was picked on a lot in school, you know? And my escape was Saturday mornings watching pro wrestling. I grew up in Canada, so I'd watch Stampede Wrestling. And I'd watch the pro wrestling and sit there and dream and go, man, I'm going to do that someday. And then I'd start watching the cartoons, and then the cartoons would turn into the action movies, and then the action movies would turn into everything else, you know?
Right.
And so that was my escape, you know? I mean, I dreaded the week. Monday through Friday was hell for me, and the weekends was my escape. So I'd escape into that world, and I actually have some of my very first comics. I still kept them to this day. You know, I bought these back in Canada. We'd have a thing called a white elephant sale, right?
Right.
So you would go in and sell all your junk to everybody else. Well, what is one man's junk is another man's treasure. And this is where I found my first comic books. I was probably maybe 9 years old. And I went in, and here's one, Beetle Bailey.
Oh, wow.
Can you see that?
Yep, got it.
Yeah.
Beetle Bailey, 20 cents, man. I picked it up, I think, for 5 cents. You know what I mean?
That's a deal.
And then we went into things like Tom Sawyer, you know, and I've got, I guess, Boris Karloff.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's like old school right there. That's, you know, and then all of them, you know, Josie and the Pussycats. I got, so that's, you know, it was my escape. I would watch the shows, and then I'd go through these comic books afterwards, and I'd reenact stuff as a kid and just enjoy it. And that's what led to where we are today.
Awesome, man. Just so you know, you're dealing with two South Carolina boys here. We're 30 minutes from Augusta. My grandfather used to take me to WCW house shows at the Civic Center. When did you decide to pursue wrestling as a career?
Man, I started in 86. I trained. I went down to Stu Hart's and said, hey, man, I want to be a pro wrestler. Of course, you know, being 6'7", and I put on some size then, and they figured they'd give me a shot. And I got my little chance to walk down into the famous dungeon.
Yeah.
Was the dungeon as brutal as everybody makes it out to be?
Oh, my God. You know, I mean, I could barely stand up in this thing. I'm like, how am I going to be doing suplexes and all this kind of stuff? And Stu goes, kid, don't worry about that. You got to wrestle first. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay. So then, you know, he goes, here's a double grapevine, kid. How does that feel? He would test you. It would test you in those days to make sure that you were worthy.
Tough enough.
I mean, yeah, tough enough and worthy.
It's one thing to say, I want to be a pro wrestler, but it's another thing to go in there and take the bumps and to train and to actually learn what they go through. Exactly.
So that was my start. And then the WWF, Red Bastien came through, and he had me come out to Los Angeles. Then I trained with Red Bastien and Mondo Guerrero, and from there joined in with the WCW and got to go all over the world, wrestling all over the world. I'm actually one of the last people to wrestle under the Giant in Japan.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
That's no small feat either. And I mean, you trained with the Harts and the Guerreros. That's arguably the two most legendary families in wrestling besides the Onwise.
Yeah, it was a great stepping stone to where I am today. And I'd always wanted to get into film. You know, it's definitely definitely helped because I mean I've done a lot of my own fight scenes along the way, and it's definitely helped.
So when it comes to Mondo and Stu, how would you say their teaching approaches differed?
Well, they were both old school. So, I mean, like they would test you and they'd put you through the ringer, you know. Mondo was no slouch in that department. he was a little guy, but he could go, you know what I mean? So he's always testing you.
And it seems like the smaller that they are, the more they go, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but at one time you were partnered with Kevin Nash. I've got to ask you what your experience was there.
Yeah, we were Twin Towers. It was fantastic. You know, I mean, working with Kevin was a great opportunity, you know, and of course he went on and had his great wrestling career, and I took the path of the acting, you know, because you get a little tired of getting dropped on your head every night, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
The very first film I did was I wrestled in Mexico. So have you guys ever seen any of those Mexican wrestling movies?
I haven't, like with El Santo and all of those, or
yeah.
I'm aware of them. I haven't seen them though.
Well, you're not missing too much. But they asked me if I wanted to do one, right? So I was like, okay, well, I don't speak Spanish, but okay. They go, don't worry, we'll dub you. We just want. So my first film that I ever did, I played an intergalactic vampire that shot laser beams through my fingertips, and I had a pink fog that chased me everywhere. It wrestled Gloria Mayo in Arena Mexico in Mexico City, you know, so don't judge, it was the 80s. So
that sounds like something I'd be interested in. I was going to say,
yeah, honestly,
that sounds right up my alley.
There you go.
We like horror movies, but we like a lot of trash movies in general over here.
So how did you land your first gig in the States then? Your first acting gig?
You know, I was wrestling, and they were looking for a wrestler for the Bandit sequel with Brian Bloom. They did it was part of the Universal Action Pack. You know, they did Moonlighting and some other ones, and did the Bandit series, and they were going to pick which one that went on. And of course, Moonlighting, you know, took Bruce Willis to the next level. So that was the first thing that I did in the States. Yeah, and then from there, you know, I went in and got the Sabretooth role.
Mm-hmm.
And from there did King Ajax and Troy and Michael Myers and the Halloweens. And then this weekend came out my latest, Jupiter's Legacy.
I mean, you were a part of the Marvel movie train before even the Marvel studio happened. You know, that was the Sony version back in the day, you know, and now there's this gigantic universe from that seed that you guys planted 21 years ago. So how does that feel? You seeing it in like just the scale of it now?
Yeah, you know, it was fantastic to be a part of that. It was a very special opportunity to be a part of that, you know, working with Bryan Singer and everybody, Ian McKellen and all the guys and girls. It was just a great experience.
You're a great Sabretooth, by the way. Like when I think Sabretooth, when I'm not thinking of the cartoon, like you're the one that pops in my head.
Yeah. And I don't, that was probably my earliest time seeing him, but every time I think of like the long hair and you had the Lemmy chops, and it's always you. It's never Lee Schreiber that comes to me.
Yeah. I thinned out a little bit since then, but
I remember I had an action figure, a Sabretooth action figure as a kid. It always cracked me up because it came with a cop. So I could, kill the cop, the Sabretooth, but it always cracked me up that I've got Sabretooth and I got a cop, and the accessories are a cop donut. Like, that was the accessory that the toy was packaged with.
Marketing, it's everything, you know.
Exactly. Well, you just listed your badass roles, man. Like one of them being King Ajax, playing alongside Brad Pitt. So to that point, would you say that was the biggest production you had been involved with in terms of scale and battles and extras and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, like we did 6 months of shooting. We were 3 months in Malta and then 3 months in Cabo, and the fight scene with Eric Bana in front of the gates of Troy, we prepared for, I'm going to say, 2.5, 3 months.
Whew.
And it was just crazy, the scale when you walk onto set and see all the extras and you see the sets like that. It was just amazing.
Most of the roles you play are physical roles, and you grew up in the ring. So do you also do your own stunts?
I usually do. It depends on the project. I did all my stuff in Troy. Sometimes they want to make sure you don't get hurt. Like for Jupiter's Legacy, I mean, the scenes were really intense, you know, and there was a lot of dialogue scenes too. So they don't want you to go out and get hurt, because then of course they can't replace you, halfway through a production. And so for Jupiter's Legacy, I did have a stunt double. For Sabretooth, I even had a stunt double. Troy Brenner was my stunt double on X-Men. Nate Andrade was my stunt double on Jupiter's Legacy.
Gotcha.
Bring that to life. But I mean, like you would just be so physically exhausted if, especially like wearing the suit for Jupiter's Legacy for Black Star. People don't understand that just putting on that suit drains you. It's so physical. It's like there's my friend there, and there's Black Star right there. That's actually a funny story. That is the first time that I screen wore the prosthetics, and I told Kevin, I said, hey, can we please save this? I'm such a nerd and a geek for this stuff. I really would love to have this. And they get it off you because of course it's glued to your face, and they peeled it off in a way, but then they reconstructed it for me because I knew how much it meant to me. So I thought that was really cool. So I figured I'd have my doppelganger here. You know what I mean?
How long did you spend in the chair for that?
That was over 2.5 hours because it would take 8 pieces to put this all together. So it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle every day.
Right.
You put on a separate nose piece, you have a separate forehead, you have separate cheeks, separate chin. And then when they glue it all down, it's so you can move. And in that, you can do all your facial expressions and everything. And it was by far the best prosthetics I've worn to date. And it was fantastic. And then you get that done to you. And then you jump into the suit that's all the armor, and it's just...
I feel like that would be like suffocating to an extent. You've got all the stuff glued on you, you've got skin tight suits, and it's just, I don't know if I'd be able to breathe,
Yeah, it can take its toll on you. The head and shoulders aren't bad, but then when you put on that heavy armor that's made out of the foam rubber, it's like you're in a gym with tensor bands, about 100 pounds, just trying to move and walk. Just walking to set and moving to set was exhausting.
Then you got to stay in character.
Yeah, you got to
do all the acting. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram, but I just posted a picture of how I would get to set. They had a gator. I would have to sit on the back of the gator because I wouldn't fit in the van because it was so damn big.
Right.
So it was just crazy.
So I got to ask, was The Rock aware of your relationship with his dad when you were working on the Scorpion King with him, or did you have to kind of tell him about it?
Actually, it's kind of funny. I was at Universal. I was supposed to play a different role in Scorpion King, but I couldn't because I was already signed to How to Make a Monster. So I was doing that, and then they ended up doing reshoots of the whole opening. And then I was coming in to shoot with Dwayne, and Rocky was coming out, and he looks at me and goes, "What are you doing here?" "I'm getting ready to work with your kid, old man. What are you doing here?" And he just laughed. He goes, "Have you met Dwayne yet?" I go, "No, I haven't." He said, "Come on." So there was Dwayne, Rocky, and myself sitting all in director's chairs, just, shooting the shit for a while, which was kind of cool. Yeah, it was cool. I'm very lucky and blessed to be able to reflect and have all these cool things to reflect on. I've been very blessed with the roles. I've been very blessed with all of it.
How did you come into the role of the Devil's Rejects in 2005? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were brought in to replace, his name is escaping me right now, but I think he passed away.
Rufus.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I had, for that's another thing, I'd auditioned for a completely different role. And I was like, okay, nothing's going to come of it. Then my agent got a call and it was like, oh, Rob Zombie wants you in this film. He wants you to take over the role of Rufus. I was like, okay. I was excited about it. Went in for 4 days of filming and thought nothing of it, and then I was up in Canada getting ready to talk to producers about another project. The phone rang and it was Rob Zombie. And he goes, "Hey man, I want you to be my Michael. I'm doing Halloween." And I'm like, "Rob, I don't want to be behind a mask." And he explained what he was going to do. And then I was like, oh shit, that's really cool. He was showing the backstory of how Michael became Michael. And I was like, it was so interesting to me to show how he's a product of an environment that I was like, oh yeah, I have to do that.
It was kind of a commentary on the whole nature versus nurture thing, it seemed to be like, because in the original one, he was just crazy, but the deep dive into it in the Rob Zombies kind of put a whole different spin on it.
Well, he makes it more of a three-dimensional character instead of a one-dimensional character, which really intrigued, And like with Jupiter's Legacy, it has the same kind of feel because they're showing the backstory of how all of the superheroes come about getting their powers and the struggle that they go through, the loss and the torment that they go through before they get their superpowers. And then, and then we jump to present day and we get Black Star brought into this mix, and then all hell breaks loose, which is, I was very excited to be a part of that too.
Speaking of, like, even if you aren't a horror fan, you know who Michael Myers is, and you know what Halloween is. And out of the Mount Rushmore of horror characters, you're talking Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, and probably Leatherface. Most people would put those up there.
Yeah, those are the ones. Yeah.
Michael has the least backstory. We know what happened to Jason when he was a kid, with the counselor story. We know what happened to Freddy, and we know Leatherface's story. There was never any insight into why was Michael this crazy killer guy, and I like that about Rob's movies.
Well, yeah, and that's what Rob wanted to do. He wanted to show that backstory of how Michael became Michael. And, if you're tormented like that, things happen, and then if you have some screws loose on top of that, then you got the perfect storm, and then you got a land shark walking around doing damage.
Tyler, you do a lot of conventions as well. What has your experience been attending these events since the beginning of the pandemic, and how have they kind of shifted, you think?
I've only done a couple of conventions since the pandemic started, but everybody's very, they're being safe and smart about it. They're wearing their masks, distancing as best we can, and it seems to be pretty good. I do a thing called a COVID kill for the convention, so I'll have the people stand in front and I'll pretend to kill them with a knife. So people seem to like that one. I see you got your Halloween shirt on there.
His
beard's been blocking
Myers.
it.
I was like, I don't want.
Very, very cool.
Couldn't get a Skywalker Nitron shirt in time, so.
Why, they don't sell those anywhere?
Sold out, actually.
Oh, sold out.
You've been mentioning Jupiter's Legacy, the new Netflix show. Can you tell us about the show a little bit and your character?
Yeah, it's on Netflix right now. I've streamed it 2 times. It came out on Friday. My character is Black Star. And the thing that drew me to it is because, I explained about being the tall, skinny kid, glasses, braces, picked on, and then when you go through that, you kind of develop a thing where you feel like you got to prove yourself more, where you're being picked on. You're like, I'm going to put a stop to all this stuff and I'm going to change it. I think most people can relate to that in their lifetime. And then when I read the script and read how Black Star was, he's just like myself. I can be a little bit cocky, snarky, and all of that. But then you add into it the Black Star being a doctor, and the intelligence and the power, and you got the antimatter battery in your chest, and you can go nuclear at any time. It was just, it was something that I was very excited to get, and then working with people, like the Utopian and Brainwave was fantastic. Have you guys seen the show yet?
I've not seen the show yet.
Oh my God, what are you guys waiting for?
I'm watching it. When we get out of here, I'm watching it, man.
I actually looked it up, I believe yesterday on Wikipedia. I was like, oh, when does this drop? And it didn't have any information on it. And then a couple hours later, I got on Netflix to watch a movie with a buddy of mine. And I was like, well, it's obviously out, because Wikipedia said it was like releasing later this year at some point, one of those vague.
Yeah, it's out and it's number one. Man, with a bullet on Netflix. Guys, so check it out.
Definitely will. Everybody's gonna check it out.
Check it out.
I'm looking at some projects you potentially have announced here, and if you can't say anything, it's fine. But I just wanted to ask because they look like intriguing to me. Witchula, can you tell me anything about that?
I cannot.
I knew it.
the one that I can tell you about is through my production company. I started my own production company, Main Entertainment. We've put out 2 films so far. First one was Compound Fracture. Second one was Penance Lane. They're both on streaming, so please, everybody go check them out. And my wife, being Renee Geerling, who's my business partner, she was the editor-in-chief of Top Cow Comics and Radical, and is with Darby Pop right now, and had done a lot of other different projects. She worked on Wanted, one of Mark Miller's comic books that was done through Top Cow that ended up being turned into a feature. And we are putting out a graphic novel of our own, and it is loosely based on the book The Last Spartan, which is a mix. If you take Sons of Anarchy, mix it with The Punisher, mix it with human trafficking, and you have The Last Spark. We just signed the writer to it, which is Christopher Priest, who wrote the Black Panthers and several other projects.
All right, well, you know the writing is going to be good.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, he's a genius in the writing field, you know. And we had a lot of long talks, and he gets my character, and you know, I want this character to be snarky and sarcastic, kind of like this guy right here.
He's a handsome guy.
Yeah, you know, smart going.
Now, what about the horror show? Can you tell me about that?
I cannot. I am doing a show. I don't know if you guys are bourbon drinkers or whatever. Cocktails Around the World. Cocktails is the World. Where I am going to be the bourbon host, and we just did a tour of the Luca Mariano distillery, a new distillery in Kentucky, and we're going to be doing the Kentucky Trail, and eventually I'm going to be the host for the Scottish whiskey and Irish whiskey and whiskeys and bourbons. So I'm looking forward to that too.
That does sound like a lot of fun. Bourbon's always fun.
Yeah. But first comes the graphic novel that we're doing. We're working on that diligently now.
I can't believe I forgot to ask you this earlier, but it just popped into my head. Who were your favorite wrestlers growing up?
Oh, God. I mean, like, I'd watch the Hulk. I'd watch Roddy Piper. I'd watch all of these guys, you know.
Hot Rod. Did you ever get to work with any of them?
I did not work with any of them. Actually, Roddy Piper is from the same hometown as me.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and I got to meet him, and he said, if there's anything I can do to help you out, let me know, you know. And that was right when I was transitioning into the film business. So
that's a good connection to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. So to date, what would you say is the best acting advice you've received?
Best acting advice I have ever received is from Sir Ian McKellen on X-Men.
That's a good person.
Yeah, good mentor.
He said, less is more, my dear boy. Less is more. And always check for boogers, because big on the big screen. That's the best advice.
Well,
I'd say that's some sound advice.
From Gandalf.
It definitely is.
So, Tyler, we're not going to keep you all afternoon here. So just tell people what you have on the horizon. Where can folks find you? Website, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you know, like we talked about, the graphic novel is going to be coming out. Check out mainentertainment.com. Follow me on The Real Tyler Main on Instagram, Tyler Main on Twitter and Facebook and all of those, and keep in touch, because a lot of cool things coming.
Yes, sir. Tyler, well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you this afternoon, my friend. Our doors are always open to you. When you can talk about these things, we would love to talk about them.
Sounds good, guys.
All right. You have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye, man.
Have a good
Take care, guys. Stay safe.